Amidst the scorching sands along the Nile River, an extraordinary story of survival is beginning. Here, under a heat that could scorch any delicate life, a tiny pair of birds is preparing for their next generation. This is the Egyptian plover, one of the birds possessing the most extraordinary parenting strategies in the natural world. They do not build intricate nests in tall trees, nor do they seek safe bushes to shelter their young. Instead, they choose a place seemingly incapable of nurturing life, a barren stretch of sand beneath the African sun. Every year, when the breeding season arrives, adult pairs return to the familiar riverbanks. Here, they begin searching for a suitable location to entrust their future. Not too close to the water's edge to avoid sudden floods, nor too far from the river where the heat can become deadly. After hours of observation, the pair finally finds the perfect spot. No branches, no dry leaves, no nesting materials of any kind. The father bird simply rotates gently on the sand. A small, shallow pit quickly appears. The nest is so simple that it is nearly invisible amidst the vast expanse of sand. Yet that very simplicity is the survival secret of this bird species. A few days later, the mother bird begins to lay her first eggs. Each egg bears a yellowish-brown color mixed with tiny black spots. That color is almost identical to the surrounding pebbles. From a distance of just a few meters, spotting the nest is nearly impossible. That is the first line of defense. But the greatest enemy of these eggs is not always a predator. It is the sun itself. Under the heat of the African summer, the temperature of the sand's surface can reach to dangerous levels. Many young embryos could die within just a few hours if left unprotected. To counter this, the Egyptian plover has developed an incredible strategy. The father bird uses his beak to gently pull sand over the nest. Thin layers of sand envelop the unborn lives. This layer of sand acts as a natural insulated blanket. It helps stabilize the temperature below the ground while completely concealing the nest from the eyes of predators. Looking from afar, no one could know that a new generation is hidden here. Day by day, the father and mother birds take turns standing guard. They almost never take their eyes off the nest area. Any strange movement makes them instantly alert. A lizard approaching, a hungry crow appearing in the sky, or a mongoose wandering along the river. All of them can become threats. When danger appears, the parent birds immediately rush away from the nest. They pretend to be injured, dragging one wing on the ground and emitting weak cries. The predator is fooled. It believes this is an easy bird to catch. It chases after the adult bird while the eggs remain safe behind. Once the distance is far enough, the bird suddenly takes flight, leaving the predator in confusion. That is a distraction tactic perfected over thousands of generations. But the sun remains the greatest challenge. On days of extreme heat, the protective layer of sand begins to absorb excess heat. The father bird immediately runs towards the river. He steps into the shallow water, gently soaking his belly in the cool water. The soft feathers absorb every precious drop of water. Afterwards, he quickly returns to the nest. As he sits down on the sand layer above the eggs, the water begins to seep downward. The evaporating moisture carries away the excess heat. A natural air conditioning system is at work. No need for shade, no need for trees. Only water and the perseverance of the parent birds. Thanks to this, the young embryos continue to develop. After nearly a month of developing underground, the chicks are finally ready to be born. Hidden deep beneath the sand, they begin to break through the shell that has protected them throughout the first weeks of life. Very faint sounds echo from beneath the ground. Each weak tap signals that the first battle has begun. The grains of sand above tremble slightly. The sand surface, seemingly motionless for weeks, begins to move. Little by little, the sand above is pushed up. A small mound gradually rises amidst the vast sandy beach. Then suddenly, a tiny beak pierces through the sand. Just seconds later, a small head covered in sand also appears. The chick moves continuously, using its frail legs to push the sand aside. Sunlight touches that young body for the first time. After nearly a month of living in the darkness underground, the first living creature has finally stepped out into the world. Not long after, other spots on the sand also begin to tremble. One by one, the chicks continue to emerge from beneath the sand. A new generation of the Egyptian plover is officially born. Amidst the scorching sand, a new family is formed. The chicks are covered in soft down feathers. Their legs are still trembling, but what is astonishing is that they do not have to lie still in the nest. Only a few hours after hatching, they are able to stand up. Their first steps appear on the hot sand. That is the vital survival advantage of this bird species. In a place without a sheltering nest, moving early is mandatory. The chicks quickly follow their parents closely. Every step is a survival lesson. They learn to recognize the river. They learn to recognize the sand. They learn to memorize dangerous places. During the day, they follow their parents to search for food. Small insects become an important source of nutrition. Initially, hunting is not easy at all. Many times, the chicks' beaks miss the target. The prey quickly escapes. But failure is also part of growing up. With each passing day, their accuracy increases. Before long, they are able to forage for their first meals themselves. Meanwhile, their plumage also gradually changes. The newborn down feathers begin to shed. Adult feathers grow in to replace them. The characteristic patterns of the plover gradually appear. Their wings grow longer. Their chest muscles develop stronger. The first exercises begin. The young birds spread their wings wide, running along the sand, continuously flapping their wings in the air. Day after day, no shortcuts, no magic, only relentless practice. Meanwhile, danger is always present. A hawk appears in the sky. Its shadow glides swiftly across the ground. Immediately, the father bird lets out a warning call. The whole family freezes in place. The chicks press their bodies tightly against the sand. Their camouflage plumage make them practically disappear. The hawk flies past, unable to detect its prey. The danger is temporarily averted. Every narrow escape is a new lesson. Every surviving day is a victory. The second week passes. The chicks' bodies have grown much larger. Their legs have become strong. Their running speed gets faster and faster. Their foraging ability becomes increasingly efficient. Their threat recognition becomes increasingly accurate. They are no longer the frail creatures that were just born. They are gradually becoming independent individuals. By the third week, their wings are nearly fully formed. Short leaps begin to appear. At first, just a few centimeters, then higher, further. Each landing brings with it a new sense of confidence. Then, on a peaceful morning by the river, a gentle breeze blows across the sand. A young bird begins to run, faster than ever before. Its wings flap powerfully. The air flows over the newly matured feathers. Lift begins to generate. Its feet leave the ground. Just for a fleeting moment, but it is the first flight of its life. The bird continues to fly further, higher, freer. From the eggs that were once buried beneath the scorching sand, from the tiny lives that once faced countless perils, now they have become young birds ready to explore the world on their own. The journey of the parent birds is almost complete, but the life cycle of the Egyptian plover continues. Someday, today's young birds will return to these riverside sands. They will find themselves a mate, dig a small pit in the sand, lay new eggs, and begin again the miraculous story of survival that has endured across countless generations under the African sun.